Let's step into the swirling drama of the Horn of Africa, where a seismic shift in global politics is stirring up a real storm. This video is your ticket to the epicenter of geopolitical mess, where BRICS nations are involved in the fray, each with their own playbook. Ethiopia and Somaliland's port project is far-reaching implications beyond the region as it reshapes the global balance of power. The strong response of the Somali president and international diplomatic statements emphasize the global impact of the alliance between Ethiopia and Somaliland. While it may seem like a simple agreement giving Ethiopia access to the sea, it has far-reaching implications that go beyond the region. The alliance involves issues of recognition, sovereignty, and complex international diplomacy. It carries the potential to escalate diplomatic or military tensions. However, the involvement of BRICS countries on both sides of the issue could lead to a peaceful diplomatic resolution. Join us as we explore the complex web of relationships, competition, and aspirations for a balanced, multipolar global order. It will be a thrilling journey. On January 1st, 2024, Ethiopia made two significant announcements: its official admission to the BRICS group and the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding with Somaliland, a territory that declared independence from Somalia in 1991 but lacks international recognition. Ethiopia, a landlocked country in the Horn of Africa, is seeking access to a seaport. This is a strategic gain that comes with the risk of conflict in a region notorious for civil wars, armed conflicts in the Red Sea, and piracy. The port of Berbera in Somaliland is at the center of the dispute. Ethiopia has signed an agreement to access the port and land for a naval base, which challenges Somalia's sovereignty. In exchange, Ethiopia will recognize Somaliland as an independent state, something which no other country has done in the 30 years since the former British protectorate said it was leaving Somalia, and with a substantial portion of Ethiopian Airlines shares. Currently, there are no additional details available regarding this memorandum, which is speculated to include agreements about an Ethiopian military presence. This speculation has caused significant concern for the Somali government, leading them to promptly recall the ambassador from Ethiopia. In response to Somaliland's agreement with Ethiopia, Somalia has swiftly declared the agreement invalid and expressed its readiness to take necessary actions to prevent Somaliland's recognition as an independent state. The president of Somalia, Hassan Sheikh Mohamud, has indicated the country's preparedness for defense measures, underlining the seriousness of the situation. However, Ethiopia's Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed Ali reassured that Ethiopia does not intend any harm towards Somalia and emphasized their historical and familial ties. He also pointed out Ethiopia's significant contributions towards peace in Somalia and stressed that stability in the region is a priority for his country, while rejecting war as a policy option. Abiy also spoke about foreign interventions trying to incite discord among the countries, promoting instead a collaborative approach through a request for sea access that benefits all parties. This strategy is designed to boost regional cooperation and wealth. Despite regional conflicts, especially regarding a Memorandum of Understanding with Somaliland, Abiy reaffirmed Ethiopia's aspiration for peaceful cohabitation and fortified relations with Somalia. 3 months after signing the memorandum, the situation on the ground hasn't changed. But diplomatically, things have gone into overdrive, revealing a web of complicated balances. We will try to explain this as clearly as we can, but you might want to stay focused and patient so you don't lose track. To be honest, Even we are not totally sure about the whole international picture because it involves half of the world and alliances have shifted over time from one faction to another. First of all, let's dive a bit deeper into the story of Somaliland and Somalia. Despite their similar sounding names, these two entities are quite distinct and share some interesting bureaucratic paradoxes that underpin their respective political and territorial claims. Even though Somalia is globally recognized as a political entity, its constitution has never been ratified. On the other hand, Somaliland isn't recognized by any country internationally, but has its own constitution, local currency, army, and passport, and stands out for its stability and social order, which are lacking in Somalia, one of the most dangerous countries in the world, heavily affected by Islamic terrorism. We will circle back to this later because it's one of many paradoxes in this story. To help us better understand this situation, we have chatted with Sharmake Ali, an activist from the Somaliland diaspora who sought refuge in England with his family years ago.
So the short answer is that Somaliland is not Somalia. Somaliland has no shared history with Somalia apart from a 31 years it was briefly illegally occupied by Somalia. Somaliland actually received its independence from Britain on the 26th of June 1960, 5 days before Somalia-Italiana became a UN trusteeship. The two countries don't actually share recent nor ancient history. Somaliland is a peaceful, prosperous, and democratic country with a population of almost 6 million people who live in the successor state of notable kingdoms and sultanates, which date back thousands of years. And interestingly, these entities, such as the land of Punt and the Odal Sultanate, historically, they actually fully utilized Somaliland's geostrategic location as a trade corridor. Somaliland was an integral part of the ancient trading routes, and we've seen this in maps across museums in places like Jordan and also history books. Somaliland was a gateway, an integral gateway into and out of Africa, connecting Africa with Arabia, East Asia, Southeast Asia, in the exchange of goods and establishment of trading outposts. Ancient Somaliland traded with the ancient Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Babylonians, Chinese, Indians, and many more. However, when the Republic of Somaliland became independent on the 26th of June 1960, when it became the 17th independent country in Africa, receiving its independence before all the other East African countries we have today, recognized by many countries including Britain, China, France, Ethiopia, and the Soviet Union, and many others. It actually sought to enter in a union with what was the UN trusteeship of Somalia-Italiana, which I mentioned earlier, on the 1st of June 1960. At this time, Somaliland had international borders, a recognized government, as I just mentioned, a constitution, and a parliament. I earlier referred to Somaliland being under an illegal occupation, and this might actually confuse some people and say, what's he talking about? But from this point onwards, when Somaliland received its independence, 5 days later, when it thought about this union, what happened was Somaliland and its parliament actually put together an active union which was agreed with Somalia-Italiana. But what happened was Somalia-Italiana actually did a bit of an Italian job. This active union was never legally ratified, and the sham referendum, which was held in 1961, was actually rejected by Somaliland citizens. This illegal occupation is further proven by an interesting case in 1961. There was a revolt by Somaliland's soldiers. However, this revolt was not successful, and what happened was these soldiers were put before a British judge in a court in Somaliland. However, the judge found that he could not sentence these soldiers because the active union was never ratified. It was never legal. Till this date, what we refer to as Somalia, or the federal government of Somalia, it's provisional. It has a provisional constitution, a provisional government, a provisional president, all because of what happened in the 1960s. Yes, it's crazy. This is actually the history that's hidden from the world. And a simple Google search won't unearth, unfortunately.
The current situation can be traced back to historical colonial divisions imposed by European powers and intricate territorial claims, a scenario that also applies to Ethiopia and Eritrea as former Italian colonies. The Ethiopian political class has consistently expressed concerns about the country's lack of port access, a problem that became more pronounced after Eritrea gained independence in 1993 and following the Ethiopia-Eritrea War in 1998. Before 1993, Eritrea was part of Ethiopia under federalization, which gave Ethiopia access to the Red Sea. The Assab port in southeastern Eritrea was particularly crucial for Ethiopia, as it facilitated approximately 70% of all its external trade. However, even Eritrea declared independence in 1993, Ethiopia lost its coastal access but maintained friendly relations with Eritrea initially and continued using its ports. This cordial relationship deteriorated due to a war outbreak over the disputed Badme border region in 1998, leading Eritrea to deny Ethiopia access to its ports. In response, Ethiopia entered into an agreement with Djibouti, a small neighboring nation, for the usage of the Djibouti port. Today, this port manages over 90% of all external trade for Ethiopia at an annual cost of around $1.5 billion paid by Ethiopia as port fees, which is terrible for the country. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed recently stressed the country's urgent need for access to the Red Sea, describing the country's landlocked status as a geographical prison in a state-run documentary on October 13th. The statement aimed at breaking the country's isolation raised tensions with neighboring Eritrea, Djibouti, and Somalia, especially because they were not informed in advance. Ahmed's warning of a possible conflict over access to the port heightened concerns, followed by a military parade and troop movements observed near the Ethiopian-Eritrean border, signaling the growing importance and urgency of Ethiopia's ambitions for access to the sea. Not exactly a peaceful situation, we can say, but this happened just before the Memorandum of Understanding with Somaliland was signed. In 2018, the Brookings Institution, a non-profit organization based in Washington, D.C., conducted an in-depth study on the strategic proliferation of military bases and commercial ports in the Red Sea and the Horn of Africa, a region that is already densely populated with an international military presence. The study aimed to provide a comprehensive overview of the growing influence of Gulf states such as the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey, alongside the established interests of global powers such as China, France, Italy, Japan, and the United States and Djibouti. The report underscored the strategic importance of the area, which sits at the crossroads of critical global shipping lanes, and highlighted the complex interplay of international agreements governing this geopolitically sensitive region. In 2024, the geopolitical landscape of the Red Sea and the Horn of Africa continues to evolve, with naval missions becoming increasingly significant. These missions include the US-led Task Force Prosperity Guardian, European Maritime Awareness in the Strait of Hormuz, Combined Maritime Forces and European Union Operations Aspides and Atlanta, officially aimed at protecting maritime routes from Yemeni Houthi activities and combating piracy. They seem more like a military positioning in this strategic area, as participation is mostly voluntary, without any political mandate from international organizations like the UN. This dynamic environment presents a mix of challenges and opportunities for fragile African states bordering the western shores of the Red Sea as they navigate between the implications of this new scramble for Africa and the shifting sense of transregional politics. What do you think? It's already a pretty complex situation, but we are not done yet. The final layer of complexity we need to add is about the positioning of various nations, especially the BRICS members, on the issue of the Memorandum of Understanding, which is what this video is all about. Egypt is stepping up as a major player against the agreement, siding with the Somali government and even hinting at military backup if needed. This move is likely due to their ongoing beef with Ethiopia over the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, something we have chatted about in this video right here. In the same vein, Sudan's military isn't too thrilled about the Memorandum of Understanding either, showing just how complex politics can get in this region. China's opposition is rooted in its principle of respecting the territorial integrity of sovereign states, a stance that also underpins its claims over Taiwan, the only political entity that officially recognizes Somaliland. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia is playing the peacekeeper. They are sticking up for Somalia's unity and sovereignty, pushing for diplomatic talks to keep things chill and stable in the region. They believe in being good neighbors and are all about promoting teamwork within the region. Iran remains neutral, but its growing ties with Eritrea suggest a potential opposition to the agreement. Russia and India are playing it safe, both seeming keen on setting up a military base in Somaliland. Right now, Russia seems to be having friendly chats with Somaliland, which might hint at them officially recognizing it soon. Earlier, attempts by Russia to set up a military base on the Red Sea in Sudan or Eritrea were blocked by the US. As for India, they might just be trying to balance out China's growing power in Africa. The United Arab Emirates supports the Memorandum of Understanding, reflecting its significant investments in Ethiopia's infrastructure and other African nations. Beyond the BRICS bloc, Somalia has Turkey's support, recently signing a defense agreement to bolster maritime security amidst a maritime dispute with Ethiopia. Unexpectedly, the terrorist group Al-Shabab sides with the Somali government against the Memorandum of Understanding, complicating the situation further. Meanwhile, the Somali president accuses the Memorandum of Understanding of undermining the fight against the Al-Shabab terrorism. Israel favors the Memorandum of Understanding, viewing the Ethiopian acquisition of a military base in Somaliland as a stabilizing factor for the region. This stance is seen as a move against the Arab League, with Ethiopia's military presence on the Red Sea challenging the interests of Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. Israel's support suggests a willingness to engage in proxy warfare using Somaliland and Ethiopia as allies. The United States, not to be overlooked, has been a disruptive force in the region since 2007, with significant funds injected into Somaliland by American NGOs, ostensibly to foster democracy, but also to counter China's growing influence. The official US stance recognizes Somalia's sovereignty, including Somaliland, leaving the matter of Somaliland's status to be decided by the Somali people, including those in Somaliland. So this is the picture we have been painting over the past few weeks. Trust us, we had to leave out a lot of juicy details, but we think it's enough for you to get a good grasp of what's going down in that part of the world. We hope we didn't give you a headache, but rather expanded your knowledge a bit. Feel free to ask questions, drop comments, and show some love with likes and shares on this video. Let's wrap up hoping that this tricky situation doesn't escalate into another dreadful war, but instead leads to some meaningful discussions and collaborations respecting everyone involved. Subscribe to Think BRICS and follow us on our social media. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching.